Boston's Champion, John L. Sullivan, Episode 95. I am Rod Murphy, and this is Growing Up Poor in Irish Boston, a series of my 1950s-era Irish and Boston songs, poems, history, jokes, and stories. John L. Sullivan, the heavyweight boxing champion of the world, was born to Irish immigrants on October 15, 1858, in Roxbury, then an Irish enclave. Boston, unlike New York City, does not have boroughs. We have neighborhoods like Dorchester, East Boston, and Southie. Roxbury is one also, and was very different when I grew up. It was mostly a black neighborhood then. My mother's aunt lived just off Roxbury's Dudley Street station in a dark, unwelcoming, multi-family building. My mother took me with her sometimes on visits to her aunt. The area was full of Irish-related buildings like Irish pubs, Catholic churches, second-hand stores, and horse and wagon vendors. I remember there was a Hibernian hall on the top floor of a large commercial adjacent building. My father told me that recently arrived single maids, cooks, and other domestics would frequent that dance hall looking for husbands. My father called them kitchen canaries. My great aunt Nellie Murphy from County Cork was one of those kitchen canaries, but she was so intelligent and efficient that she rose to the head housekeeper for Governor Alva Fuller. Sullivan's parents, survivors of the Irish famine, gave him his sense of identity and resilience. The Sullivans wanted him to go to Boston College and then become a priest. He was a bright student, but he found his true calling in boxing rather than preaching. Boxing at that time was relegated to exhibitions or clandestine bouts, but it grew into an embodiment of the American dream for many Irish Americans. Sullivan's rise from local boxing fame to national celebrity happened at one bout. His opponent failed to show, and to quell the restless crowd, Sullivan issued a challenge from the boxing ring that became his trademark. He said, quote, "I can lick any man in the house," unquote. This became not just Sullivan's trademark, but a symbol of Irish-American defiance and determination. Through a series of exhibition matches and high-profile bouts, including a legendary encounter with Patty Ryan in Mississippi, Sullivan's fist wrote chapters of boxing history. His 71-round victory over Ryan, witnessed by figures as diverse as Oscar Wilde and Jesse and Frank James, cemented his status as a champion of the people. Sullivan's reign as the heavyweight champion brought boxing to the forefront of American sports, making him the nation's first sports superstar. Leveraging his, quote, "I can lick any man in the house," unquote, boast, he made a whirlwind tour of 200 stops across the United States, showcasing his unparalleled strength and skill. That endeared him further to an adoring public. Boxing historian Nate Fleischer observed, "For the first time in their lives, Americans living in the sticks, nearly 400,000 American farmers, miners, lumberjacks, artisans, and clerks laid down their hard-earned cash to see a real boxer in action. They loved it, and the effect of their gratification on the growth and spread of boxing is beyond calculation today." Yet Sullivan was more than a mere athlete. He was a cultural icon, reflecting the grit and the determination of the Irish-American community, still struggling to overcome prejudice and find their place in American society. Such was his fame that to be able to say, quote, Shake the hand of the man who shook the hand of John L. Sullivan, unquote, brought its own notoriety. Pardon this short break. I hope you are enjoying my Growing Up Poor in Irish Boston podcast. If you like this episode, please subscribe or follow. It's free and helps me to grow my audience. And now, back to Boston's champion, John L. Sullivan. Sullivan never forgot where he came from. In a story that further enhanced his renown among Hibernians, this story is that he refused to stand for the traditional toast to Queen Victoria while attending a dinner in his honor in Victoria, British Columbia, Canada. Sullivan's comment that he hadn't been brought up to see Irishmen drinking to the health of English monarchs shocked dinner guests. However, time and age affects athletes also. Add to this that in a phenomenon we see repeated among many modern athletes, Sullivan liked to party, and it became increasingly difficult for him to get in shape. The fight against Gentleman Jim Corbett in 1892 highlighted the end of an era and showcased how far boxing had developed under Corbett. No longer were fights held secretly in the dark back room of a saloon. This fight was held under the glare of new electric light and the eyes of over 10,000 spectators and reported worldwide. The aging champion and brawler Sullivan met his match in the younger, more agile, more scientific Corbett. While clearly past his prime and suffering a broken nose in an early round that constrained his breathing, Sullivan persevered until the last of the 21 scheduled rounds when he was finally knocked out. However, even in defeat, Sullivan added to his legacy when he said, "Gentlemen, all I have to say is that I came into the ring once too often, and if I had to get licked, I'm glad it was by an American," unquote. Sullivan's grace in defeat, acknowledging Corbett's victory as a passing of the torch to a fellow American, exemplified his character. John L. Sullivan's legacy is not merely confined to his boxing achievements. It is interwoven with the narrative of us all, Irish Americans, struggling in all our successes. His life story from the streets of Roxbury to the heights of boxing fame resonates with the spirit of a community that fought to carve out a place in America. Sullivan's journey embodies the complexity of the American dream, reminding us that heroes are not defined by their victories alone, but by their abilities to be good examples for others to follow and to stand with dignity and pride, regardless of the outcome. Signed, sealed, and delivered.